Hello, fellow audio nerds. I'm Steph, and this is MajorHiFi. This past week, I had the absolute pleasure of listening to and spending some quality time with the Astell Kern SP1000M. Now, the M is sort of a more portable version of the SP1000. And so beyond the sort of differences in size and the slight differences in design and layout, the biggest thing that I was wondering was how do they compare sound-wise? If you have a lot of money to spend on a high quality DAP, these are going to be two options for you to consider. So yeah, let's take a little bit of a closer look at these. Let's go back in time. I'll share with you my first impressions, and then I'll meet you right back here for my overall thoughts. All right, here we go. Hey everybody, welcome to my place. So today I've got with me the Astell Kern SP1000M. I'm very excited to take a listen to this player. So let's see what's inside the box here. So as you'll see, we've got a number of different accessories here. First things first, I guess, it does come with this really beautiful wooden box. I guess you could store it in here if you're just use it as like a home player, but yeah, this box is just really beautiful and will hold the player nicely. There's a really nice soft leather case to sort of hold the player. Yeah, it's kind of this, I think like each different version of the SP1000M will have a different color leather case here. Now, I have the gold version, which is actually different than, it's sort of a special edition as opposed to the normal SP1000M, which is made of aluminum. This one's not, it's made of brass, but it is a special gold color, and it's really, really pretty, as you'll see here. Next, we've got a USB-C cable for charging and everything. There's some documentation here. These are some screen protectors for both the front and the back, because you'll notice the back is this like really pretty kind of design there, and then obviously the screen on the front. And then we've got some micro SD card slot covers. And then, of course, since I didn't mention it already, we've got the player itself. So first things first, I do just want to talk about the look of this, because I think it's absolutely a gorgeous player. I'm just going to peel the cover off here so we can see it better. So check it out. You'll sort of see that it actually has a lot of like, it looks really similar, has a super similar vibe to the original SP1000. It's got this similar sort of wheel, although its actual like design is slightly different, but it's got this sort of geometricalness to it, which so many of Astell Kern players do. Another kind of difference between this player I'm noticing and the SP1000 are just like the shape of these buttons, because on the SP1000, those are circles. With this, it's more of like a rectangular shape. There's also just kind of like a couple other slight variations on like the layout of things, where things are located, the SD card slot and that kind of stuff. Also, this wheel on the SP1000M is just a wheel. It's not a button. On the SP1000, it's a button as well, so the power button on this one is on top here. Now, as for the actual build of this thing, so there is some serious weight to it, and it kind of gives it this sense of like, I don't know, added like class, added expensiveness, for lack of better words. Now, it is different from the SP1000, mostly in size. So this is a little bit shorter, about an inch actually. The SP1000 has an inch extra of like screen space. This one's a little bit shorter. It is also a little tiny bit thicker as well. Now, the one that I've got, obviously, this is the gold one, so it's made of brass, so it's a little bit heavier than the aluminum one that you usually get with the SP1000M. But sort of the added benefit of this one is going to be just the portability aspect of it. Obviously, I guess, because it's a slightly smaller and lighter than the SP1000. So I'm really curious to see how this thing sounds, though, because I will quickly go through some of the differences in the tech, which, you know, we'll see how much it affects the sound. Now I'm just going to quickly turn this on. Some of the similarities between this and the SP1000 is that they both use the Exynos 7420 octa-core CPU. So that and then like the GUIs should be exactly the same. So this is just turning on now. You'll see how like nice the screen actually looks. Like there's a lot of clarity to it. And it just, yeah, it just has this air of like classiness and expensiveness that, you know, I don't know. It's, you want if you're paying $3,000 for a player, because this is like some serious stuff. But yeah, you'll see, I'm just sort of going to tap around real quick and see. It's very responsive. And yeah, just sort of looking at it right now, it seems to be exactly the same as the SP1000, you know, operating system. This wheel does the volume. Gosh, these players are so good looking. I'm super into it. I guess if you're the type of person, like if you've tried this operating system before and you like it, then you're going to be in good company with this player. Now, a couple of other differences in the tech with these two. One is that the battery life is a little bit different. This one lasts for 10 hours. The SP1000 lasts for 12. And then the other difference is that the amount of memory that this has is a little bit less. I'm actually going to just like put the full spec comparison up here for you so you can sort of like look a little bit closer at it. There are just some slight differences, including like the amount of noise and that kind of thing. But one similarity and something that makes me really hopeful for this player is that it's the same DAC as the SP1000, and that's the AK4487 EQ, and it's a dual DAC, so there's two of them in there. So yeah, I'm expecting that this is going to sound really good, but I am curious, you know, how does those other small differences, does it affect the sound that much? I'm about to take a listen here. I'm going to be listening right now with my Focal Spirit Professional headphones. I know these headphones really well, and I know that I'm going to be able to really hear a lot of the details that the SP1000M is putting out. So I'll listen with these. Over the course of the next week, though, I will listen with different pairs of headphones, including some headphones with a balanced connection. There is, you'll notice here, along with the 3.5mm, there's a 2.5mm balanced output here. So I definitely want to give that a shot as well, because yeah, I know it's gonna really bring things to life even more. Wow. Sorry. I'm excited about this. Yeah, I was just listening to the song Touched by Tango by Alfred Marcucci off the record Five Tango Sensations Anxiety. So, yeah, I'm getting lots of liveliness. The attacks of the cello, of the strings of the accordion are coming through with just like such a dynamic range. It's really beautiful sounding and very impactful. I do also want to just mention before kind of going forward with this listening test, obviously listening to this just by itself, I can't really just pull out of a hat how it compares sound-wise to the SP1000 because I think that the differences are going to be pretty subtle. So over the course of the next week, I will listen side by side, you know, the SP1000M versus the SP1000. So stay tuned for the end of this video because I'm going to go a little bit deeper into the differences specifically between those two things. But as for this right now, yeah, this is really beautiful. And with that song, I'm getting so much harmonic complexity, and really the thing I think the player is doing is just bringing the liveliness of the dynamics front and center. You can really hear the jump of those violins when they play the staccato kind of notes and the accordion as well. Okay, yeah, I was just listening to the song Storms Are on the Ocean by Amber Rubarth. And yeah, the soundstage is really well done with this device. I'm getting really a clear sense of everything, not lots of nice separation. And I especially hear it at the attacks of instruments. I'm hearing it at the attack of the guitar, just like space around the note, which kind of leaves room for that attack to kind of occupy its own space, if that makes sense, in the soundstage. Likewise, there's really just a sense of prettiness to Amber's voice, and the clarity that comes along with the consonants of that voice, I think, is actually coming to life more than it would be without the SP1000M. So I think it's really bringing a lot of nice life to it. It's interesting to talk about, what a DAC or what a player is doing to the sound of something, because I think it's a lot less obvious and a lot less in your face than differences between headphones. It's a lot less having to do with the frequency response, so like the differences between the lows and the highs, for example, and has much more to do with just the way that instruments react timing-wise. And so I think that's really going to be where the comparison comes in between this SP1000M and the SP1000. Timing-wise, over the length of a note, even if it is staccato, what are the differences between these two players? So I'm really excited to continue to listen throughout the week. And stay tuned. I will give you kind of a more in-depth comparison back at the MajorHiFi office. All right, I will see you there. So as for the dynamic ranges of both the SP1000 and the SP1000M, really sort of are remarkable, actually, and really bring the music to life. Now, the way that this comes across is lots of emotional impact, sort of an addition to the grooviness of the songs, and just spaciousness in general. The biggest difference I heard, and I'm going to say this first before going into this difference, the difference is subtle. And if you have an untrained ear, or you're the type of audiophile that doesn't usually kind of hear those really, really, really minute differences, then you probably wouldn't hear a difference, to be honest. But for me, anyway, and for those of you with a very, very sensitive ear, you'll notice a difference in the dynamic range. The way that it comes across to my ear is that the SP1000M really has a lot of spaciousness right around the attack, versus the SP1000, which has more spaciousness around the entire length of the note. So the way that this sort of comes across audibly, I guess, is more of a sense of musicality and more spaciousness in the SP1000 than the M. But again, you still get dynamic range with both, and you still get a sense of expression and excitement with both. As for the soundstage of the SP1000 and the SP1000M, I think that it's remarkable. And actually, when I was first listening, before I even consciously was, or intentionally was going to listen for the soundstage, I noticed it right away because it was really well done. There's really a beautiful sense of space that you get with listening with either of them. Now, as for the differences, the sense of height and with the SP1000M versus the SP1000, to me, sounded nearly identical. I honestly could not really hear a difference in the sense of height between the two. As for the sense of width, so at first I didn't really hear much of a difference. I was sort of, kind of thinking to myself that the width sounded really similar. But where I started to notice the difference was actually dependent on the instruments that were panned out wide. So for example, there was one song where there's sort of like this long string sound, kind of a string pad, if you will. Listening with this and the SP1000, they sounded really similar. But once that string started to make movements and there was more of a clear sort of attack there, that's when I started to notice the extra sense of width that came with the SP1000. So they were really similar, but just when it comes to very dynamic music that has sort of movement to the sides, you actually end up getting a bit of an extra sense of width and expansion from the SP1000. Now, the biggest difference I noticed in the soundstage between these two was in the sense of depth. The SP1000, because of the spaciousness around the entirety of the note, just had a lot more nuance there to my ear. And I could really kind of feel the differences in the front to back kind of dimension there. Now, the SP1000M still did a really good job with the depth. In fact, when I did my first impressions, before I got a chance to listen side by side, I was kind of blown away by the sense of depth. But just in comparison, when I listened side by side, it just didn't quite do as much for me. It didn't feel quite as expansive. It didn't feel quite as realistic. And I wonder what y'all would think if you heard the same, just because I think that because of the ear sensitivity differences that we all have, like some folks might not be able to hear that difference, but I certainly did, in specifically the sense of depth. So overall, both the SP1000 and the SP1000M are super top of the line DAPs, and honestly the price reflects that. So for those of you that are sort of have that kind of budget open for this type of product, you might be wondering, okay, so like which one should I buy then? So here's my sort of final analysis on what you should consider. If you want to maximize portability, I would say go with the SP1000M because it sounds amazing. It's lighter and smaller, it's easier to hold in the hand. However, sort of the small minutia, the nuances that you might otherwise miss from the SP1000, you probably won't miss anyway, because if you're using it for portable use, that means you're taking it on the go and you're not 100% like have the optimal listening situation, meaning that this is going to do the trick for you and you can save yourself a little bit of money. However, if you more so are going to use this at home, if you do have more of an optimal listening situation and you want to maximize sound quality, you want the best possible sound quality you can get, then I would say definitely go with the SP1000. You'll get these little nuances out of it that you just won't get with the M. And meanwhile, you'll sort of have this kind of, I don't know, this extravagance to the sound, especially in the sound stage, but it comes across on so many levels. It's musical, yet really gives you a clear image of the sound, and really just contributes to the overall emotional impact that you get from the music. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I know that talking about sort of the nuances of something like a DAC, or a DAP in this case, is kind of difficult to do just because the language it's hard to really articulate. But I hope this video was helpful. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And for more videos like this, be sure to subscribe. If you'd like to read a more kind of like side-by-side comparison of the two, I've actually written a comparison review where you can really kind of see side-by-side on every level the differences between the two, and I'll link that in the description below. All right, everybody, thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.